Frame rates is a pretty big and complex topic to cover, and whilst I hate to say Google it, if you want to know any more detail about this, check it out online. I'm going to give you the basics of what you'll need to know and why we choose certain frame rates. Film is shot in 24p, 24 frames a second, 24 images played sequentially over a second to create a sense of motion. But how was it calculated? Where did it come from? Well, part of it was to do with sound recording in film. Established in The Jazz Singer movie from Al Jolson in 1927. They recorded it at this, and that's a standard they stuck at. The other thing is to do with economics. So film going through a camera, a film camera, the faster it goes through, the smoother the motion would be, but the more film would get eaten up. The slower it would go through, cheaper it would be, but the motion wouldn't look particularly natural. 24p was kind of a nice middle ground. Whilst it isn't the smoothest, it's something that we've become really accustomed to. After all of these years, we are still shooting 24p and we still love it. When we start talking about TV frame rates, this is where things become a little bit too complicated. You don't need to know all this information for this course, but a bit of history is really useful. So the way TV is broadcast in the old days, and actually in many places still is, they couldn't send a whole frame across the airwaves. They split it up into two. So one line would be sent in one image, next line would be sent another. So it was split up and put together in the TV. This is called interlaced. So if you see 60i and 50i, that is what's called interlaced. But what we use now is something called progressive. So you see P and I, these are different. So you see 25p, you see 30p, you see 50i, you see 60i. Progressive is so much better. That whole frame is sent over there. There's none of this joining together because this created image issues. We get jaggedy lines. It didn't look very good at all. And if you ever try uploading interlaced footage to the web, you see just how bad it looks. Next, there's the difference in regions. The main ones in the world are NTSC, which covers these regions, and they use 30p for their progressive and 60i for their interlaced. And then there's PAL in these regions, like where I am now, England. PAL is so much simpler. It's 50i or 25p. NTSC is so confusing. We have all these different frame rates. We have 60i for interlaced, and for progressive we have 30p, which is actually precisely measured at 29.976. And we also have a 24p equivalent of 23.976. I told you it's going to get confusing. So which one do you shoot? Well, I'm going to have some nice graphics around me to help you. There's three things you need to look at, three main case studies: NTSC, PAL, or web. So let's start with NTSC. We have these three frame rates. We have the 60i, we have the 29.976, we have the 23.976. Which one do you choose? Well, you don't shoot interlace anymore, leave that alone. Now, if you want to shoot for the more filmic looking thing, you shoot at 23.976. If you want to look a little bit smoother, if you want that, then shoot at 29.976. Now, PAL, it's so much easier. We don't bother with interlace anymore, as I said, so you just shoot at 25p. Web, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Some people say that you need to shoot at 23.976 or 24p to make it look as cinematic and filmic as possible. Nonsense, 25p looks the same. I challenge you to tell the difference. The only time you really want to set your camera to specifically 24p, not 23.976, dead on 24p, is if you're going to take your masterpiece and put it onto film and project it into your nearest blockbuster theatre. It's not really going to happen for most of us, is it? So stick to those frame rates I've just told you about. But Philip, my camera also has a 50p and 60p setting, and I like shooting in those myself, but I use them for slow motion. You can use them for real time, but for me it just looks too smooth. It just looks uncinematic. I will explain how to use this 50p and 60p in slow motion in, surprisingly, the slow motion episode. Percy, why do we have these different frame rates in these different regions? Do you know why? Do you want to know why? Well, the answer is very simple. It's above our heads: electricity. In the UK power regions, we have a refresh rate of 50 Hz, and in NTSC regions, we have 60 Hz. And this ties in with our frame rate, but also our shutter speed.